Hey y'all, I'm Kori Ashton, and this video is a 1 hour webinar where you get to be a part of a conversation between me and Jason Resnick. This guy is a freelance coach and an entrepreneur. He offers so much advice on how to improve your process and your profit as you're growing your freelance business inside the world of WordPress. This particular workshop is talking all about how to close more deals as you're trying to onboard new clients. What does that process look like? What are some resources that you can use to make that process more efficient and effective? He's going to show us all right now.
Jason, thank you so much for being here today. I am so excited to get to learn more and more about you. As I stalked you online, I discovered that you are a New Yorker, you're a web developer, you're a freelancer, you're a dad, a husband, an entrepreneur. You're actually a freelancer turned freelancer coach as well. So that's really kind of where you are now. That's the space you're in. And you still do freelancing, is that correct?
Yes. Yep. For sure. Yeah. I mean, I'll always do the services work. I love doing it. I love my clients, and I'm never going to go anywhere with that.
Yeah. And you also are a host of some podcasts. Tell us about that.
Yeah. 2 podcasts. I host Live in the Feast, which is a seasonal based podcast. It's a little longer form, about a half an hour, where each season I address a topic of freelancing, sales, marketing, those kind of things, niching down. And each episode is a deep dive on a strategy. I also host Ask Res, which is a shorter form daily podcast. It's about 5 to 7 minutes where I just answer a question that I've been asked in the past. And yeah, I love podcasting. It's my medium of choice. I'd much rather do a podcast than blog. And so, yeah, I have fun with it.
You have so many resources. As I was looking through your website, every time I clicked, it just seemed like we were going deeper and deeper and deeper into this massive list of resources. I mean, yeah, how many episodes have you done now? Do you have a count on either show?
Yeah, Ask Res is I just released episode 254 today.
Wow.
So that's been a daily podcast. I literally just passed a year. Once one episode 261 hits, that's a full year of work days. So
Wow.
that's format's going to be changing. But Live in the Feast is on season 5, which just released on Tuesday. And each season is about 10 or 11 episodes. So, it's awesome. People ask me questions, and I just want to be able to give back and help them out in any way that I can.
Yeah. That's so much work to just be able to give back. I mean, you're providing so much value for free, but you also have paid opportunities. Tell us a little bit about Feast.
Yeah, Feast is a coaching platform, I call it. It's obviously a course and it's a community, but it's really a coaching platform for me to help other freelancers who are looking to build recurring revenue in their business through specialization or productized services. And I basically walk you through how to do that, because that's what I did myself. And if it worked for me, I know it could work for everybody else. So that's what Feast is about. And yeah, I mean, you could sign up for an annual, you could sign up monthly. There's about 75 different videos and lessons and resources in there. We have a Slack group, and we have a lot of fun in there too.
Well, speaking of Slack group, I've definitely enjoyed your input on Press Tribe. So thanks for being a part of that and having a voice there. There's so many of us that are right, where we're kind of behind where you've already been, right? You've already kind of blazed the trail for us. You've already learned a lot. You've experienced a lot with your own agency or your own freelance adventure. So we're excited to learn from you today more and more about how to close more deals. So that's the topic. As you know, we're kind of brainstorming, looking through some different ideas. That's the one that really stuck out with me. I think our audience through Press Tribe as well as my YouTube channel will be very interested in learning from you, kind of your perspective on how do we actually do that? What's that engagement look like? What does that process look like from your perspective?
Yeah, I'm excited for it. It's something that I'm enthusiastic about because it's so easy. It's so easy to do this follow-up sequence to be able to close more deals.
Well, absolutely. Take it away. I'm going to make you, so you are going to be co-host right now. So you're going to be able to share your screen if you have any slides. Take it away and let us just follow you on this. Thank you.
Okay, so hopefully you guys can see my slides right now. I'm going to stop my video just because I just want to make sure that the bandwidth is good. So everybody can see my slides okay? Hopefully.
Yep, looks good.
Awesome. All right. So yeah, so closing more deals through follow-up. And I'm going to tell you how easy and simple it is and how effective I've been able to tailor the sequence to then have deals more likely to close. And as Kori mentioned, my name is Jason. I am a family man, work from home dad with a loving wife, very supportive wife. I am a web developer. I host 2 podcasts. Ask Rez is coming up on a year of daily podcasts, so I'm really proud of that. It's definitely a hard thing to do. So I'm really super excited about that. Now, let's just dive into it. I want to be mindful of your guys' time and leave enough room at the end for you guys to ask me any sort of questions that you can so that you can walk away with tremendous value. Basically, whatever you need from this, I want you to get. So this question right here is the second most asked question we ask ourselves. And I've been asked for years. As a freelance coach, I get asked tons of questions. The first one is always how to get more clients. And the second one is how do I stand out? By asking this question, you should be thinking, what am I doing differently than those around me? What's my differentiator? And you may have a specialty like SEO in the e-commerce space or design and build websites for veterinarians. And that's one way to do that. But that's a hard thing, right? And there are others who also do it. So how do you differentiate from those? What we're going to talk about today has been working with people in the business in any sort of transactional based marketplace for years, since they started business with the first coin in Egypt, right? So imagine if you were in a car dealership and you walked in, looked around, found the type of car that you liked, and you get in the driver's seat, you push a few buttons, maybe even put your hands on the wheel to kind of get a feel and a sense of the car. You even hop into the back seat for whatever reason, because you're never going to sit there anyway. But you might see, see what the legroom is back there. And the salesperson walks up to you and invites you on a test drive. You drive around the block. Maybe you even test it on the highway, all the while asking questions about maybe mileage and features and some other things as the salesperson gives you more information about that car. The drive is now over. You head back to the dealership with some more questions, but pretty certain that you want to take this next step in this process. Maybe find out about the leasing and financing options. Maybe find out if the car is in stock or it has to be ordered, only to notice that no one is around. The salesperson who was right behind you is gone. There's no people on the sales floor of the dealership. There's no way to move forward in the discussion because, well, they ghosted you, as the kids say these days, right? How would you feel? Frustrated? Confused, maybe even angry. Well, that's what is happening with a lot of you, right? Back in November, I threw this Twitter poll out just to see, because I was getting a lot of questions, and 80% of you have no formal follow-up in your freelance business sales process. So I thought following up is the nice thing to do, right? Like, if I were on the other side of the table, not being someone who doesn't go through this process on a daily basis, how do I know what's next, right? Like, how do I get more information about making a better buying decision? So I figured that there had to be something to do with this. If people are asking how to stand out from the crowd and 80% of the people are not doing this, well, then that's what you do. That's how you stand out. Right? So the landscape is pretty simple. I mean, I went into some deep dive research on all of this kind of stuff because I wanted to see what was going on out here. Because for me, I've been doing this for a long time. So I wanted to see if I could help in any sort of way, or if I was just an anomaly or whatever. But the thing is the reality of this is that half of all leads that enter a sales pipeline are not ready to buy. The decision makers of the buying decision consume 5 pieces of content before they even are ready to talk to somebody. 80% of sales that are made require 5 follow-ups after the first meeting, and 44% of sales reps give up after just 1 follow-up. Now, for me, the goal of a follow-up is storytelling, to educate the person on the other side what the next step in the process is. And that next step ultimately is to work with you. So I don't want to dive too deep into the buyer journey, but it definitely is poignant here, right? The buyer's journey, if you aren't really aware of it, is basically 3 stages at which somebody is considering to buy something, right? There's the awareness stage where they have this sense that they have a problem that they need solved. They just don't know where to go, or what it's called, or what the solution is. The consideration stage is now they've identified what that problem is, and they've identified in a roundabout way what that solution is. And then the decision stage is essentially the short list, right? They know the solutions that they need, and they just need now to know exactly which solution to choose. So the worst, if somebody is in the buying journey, right? Somebody interacts with you and your business. The worst thing that you can do is make them do work, right? Like if you send a proposal and then just let it sit there for a few days, don't follow up with something like this. Like, hey, Pete, just check in to see if you got the proposal and had any questions. That's putting work on them, right? If you got a email right from the street asking you about your services, and then you send off another email with a list of your services along with maybe a link to schedule a call, and then follow up a few days later saying, hey, Jane, should we set up a time to talk? These are examples of terrible cold outreach that many of us get on a daily basis over and over and over and over again. It's not helpful. It makes us do work, right? Don't put the work on your lead to do. So you want to provide value, right? Sending a tiny bit of information that's helpful or a link to an article is enough to nudge them that, hey, what's the next step here? I know that we're supposed to schedule a link. Okay, this is just a friendly reminder, right? The other thing to do is it's an education point, right? When you want to work with the best kind of clients, you want them to understand the value that you're bringing to the table. You want them to respect your suggestions. You want them to be open and listen. So you have to position yourself as an expert. And how you do that is through education. Through your follow-up, you want to tell how to get that person to the next step. What pieces of the puzzle do they need to know in order to work with you so that they can get what they need? Now, oftentimes, how people come to you and how they talk to you is telling of what stage they're in that buyer journey. Now, before I move forward with this, I'm just going to take a sip of water. Is there any questions or anything in the chat, Kori, maybe that I can answer right away?
There's nothing in the chat so far, but I do want to, that's a perfect spot for me to actually say, if you guys do have questions, the chat is where you can go ahead and just type them out and we will get to them. Jason's really excited to do some Q&A with you. So far though, I actually have a question, Jason, on this. I'm excited learning more and more about all this. When you're dealing with sending that initial proposal, would you suggest just attaching it in an email and sending it over to them for review, or do you actually suggest scheduling some sort of a proposal presentation, even if it's just a video call with the client? What is your process there?
My process with proposals I work with my clients on the proposal, right? So we have a conversation. It could be an hour-long conversation where we talk about budget, scope, timeline, ROI, all of these things that I put into a proposal so that I could get a verbal affirmation at the end of the call to see if I should write up that formal proposal. So nothing that I say in the conversation, everything is in that proposal. So there's no sticker shock, there's no surprise, there's no nothing. If they're way out of line with the budget or the time or something's a mismatch, I don't want to spend a few hours writing up this proposal only to find that out. So I have that call right then and there. We build it together. And at the end, if they have that affirmation or in the affirmative that let's move forward, then I say, okay, I'll write up a formal proposal. So I do that each and every time we get to the point at which the proposal is the next step.
That's so smart. That's so smart. I mean, right there, you're already in a sense filtering out that lead and not spending your time investing, making a document that will literally go in their virtual trash can the second they receive it.
100%. And
Yep.
that's the thing. There's no, I mean, the lead time from delivery of a proposal, I mean, it should be a day or two. Like there should be no days after that. If there is days, then I'm not the right fit for you. And that's fine too.
All right. Well, I'll keep the live chat queued up over here, but go ahead.
Awesome. So what we want to do in the follow-up is meet them where they are, right? So if it's an anonymous visitor to your website, right, they haven't opted in, you don't even know that they're there unless you're looking at Google Analytics, they're in the awareness stage. They're just trying to figure out what it is that can be possibly done, right? Now, if they've filled out a contact form or sent you an email, I call this the hurryville, right? It's where they just kind of didn't want to go through the process. They just want to pick up, if they could pick up a phone, they would, right? So it's Hurryville USA. And I'll get into a little bit more about that in a minute, but they're in the consideration stage. They've taken that next step, that outreach. They know that, hey, you could potentially be somebody that could solve my problem. Same thing with the initial sales call. If they filled out a project brief, now I have a project brief and everybody that I get on a phone call with has to fill one of these things out first. This project brief goes deeper into the project. What's the goals? Why is this important now? What does a home run look like? And what does failure look like? I want the client to understand all of these things so that we could be on point with the deliverable of the project. I'm not in their head. So I want to fully understand everything. They're in the decision stage if they fill that out. Same thing with the final sales call, like Kori, just asked me about. That final sales call is us building out that proposal. And the verbal agreement, likewise. If I get that verbal agreement, they're in that decision-making stage. So, yeah, you might be asking, I thought this was about follow-up, not buying decisions, right? Well, yes, it is. But I wanted to set that tone here so that you know what to follow up with and when. Like, what's the appropriate thing to follow up with, right? So you might be asking, how many follow-ups do I send out, right? Well, I bring you back to some of the stats that I found. Decision makers consume 5 pieces of content first, right? 80% of the sales that are made require 5 follow-ups. 44%, I'm throwing that last one in there, give up after just 1, right? So that's the thing here. The pattern here is you need at least 5 pieces of content, right? Like you need 5 pieces of content on your site just so that people are aware. And that content could be a case study. It could be your process. It could be a couple of blog posts, really just answering questions that you get. Then through email, 5 other follow-ups, meeting the buyer where they are. Go ahead and send that helpful information. And I'll get to a template that you can use right here at the end. But if they don't take action on that 5th and final follow-up, then send them what I wish I could come up with the name, but it's the magic email. Kai Davis, he's a friend of mine. He came up with the magic email, and I'll outline what that magic email is in a minute. Now, how often? Well, how often do you send these things is really up to you. You could send it every day. I do that. You could send it every other day. It really doesn't matter. And you could tweak it to suit your business. This is where it's kind of fun to figure out, okay, if I want somebody to close and they happen to close more times on the third or fourth email, maybe I just truncate that a little bit more, right? The bottom line here is you're not bugging them, right? Because that's what people are like, how, I don't want to bug somebody, right? Well, I want them to tell me to get lost, right? Like, because when it comes right down to it, is that they asked some time from me, right? So if I'm putting that time in with them, providing them value that's helpful to them to get them to the solution that they want, whether it is with me or not, well, yeah, I'm going to keep bugging them, right? So if I'm not that person, it's totally fine. At least I know, right? But if it is, then they've qualified themselves as someone who I can work with because now they have a better understanding of what that solution is, what it entails, and all of the knowledge and expertise that I can bring to the table. So here's the thing. You want to have a library of email, which is basically just links. For a long time, I used Gmail's canned responses, and I would just schedule that kind of stuff out. Now I have a sequence and convert kit that I use based around what I know about the lead. I mean, I've evolved this greatly over the years, but really it comes down to, look, you browse the web, right? We all do. Well, we might have our own blogs and our own content out there as well. You read news, articles, infographics, get downloads to further your skills and understanding. Well, this same information that you find helpful, your leads are going to find helpful as well. And if it's helpful for you, it's something that you're going to talk to them about in the first place. So why not put that in your follow-up sequence? Now, oops, what happened here? The next thing you want to do is you basically, and this is how I do it. I basically build out a spreadsheet of columns, right? And I put the title in one column, the link of the resource in another, and then I put the buyer journey in another stage. And I'll show you exactly what this looks like right next. But you want to start to think about, oh, if I'm reading an article, where would it make sense to share this to my lead? Now, if they're just in the awareness stage, it might be stats. It might be like, hey, the 50 best ways to develop an e-commerce site or something like that, right? But as they progress through the buyer's journey, you want to start positioning yourself and your expertise, maybe showing a case study if they're in the buying decision that relates to their business and so on, right? And finally, you want to write up a couple of key takeaways. You don't have to write up a novel based around this stuff, but you want to basically have a couple of sentences, maybe a few bullet points, so that if the person, when you send that follow-up sequence, doesn't actually click the link, the information that you want them to take away is already in that email, right? So they don't even have to click the link, but the natural education, the points that you're trying to make or to have the lead take away with are there. They're going to read that at the bare minimum. So this is what my email automation follow-up library looks like. And that's just one of my services. I'm just going to grab a sip of water while you just take a look. And like I said, it's really simple. Right over on the left is the title of the email. And in the middle column, I have the URL, right? And in the third column, you have the stage, right? The awareness, consideration, and decision stage. So depending on where they are, if they're in the Hurryville where somebody just shot me an email from wherever, well, then I'm going to put them in the awareness stage. I'm going to send them a couple of things if they've shown interest in my email automation service. However, if I've had an initial sales conversation, they're more in the consideration stage. So I'm going to pick out a couple of these articles and send them there. And then if I have that proposal sent out and they haven't gone yet and signed it, well, they're going to get emails around the decision stage. And now you can see my email address, my website is res.com. So I sprinkled in some of mine, but I've leverage other people's content to make it known that I'm educating myself. These are up to date. Some of these things are even 2019 articles where it actually it's in the title. Some of these things are cut off, but it's actually in the title so that they're aware that I'm up on this stuff, right? So you want to try to, as you're browsing the web, clicking on links in Facebook and LinkedIn and all the rest of the places, hey, if you got something out of it, maybe your leads and clients will too. Now, the template that I want you to use is something like this, right? It's very simple, very short. It's just, hey, I found this article and I wanted to share it with you, right? Then the interesting parts are blank, right? And give them 2 or 3 bullet points, maybe even just bolded some text, a sentence or 2, right? But then, which means we build or do X so that it accomplishes Y, right? Like relate it to why it's important for them. And throw the link in, and I hope you find this helpful. I hope it inspires you for some ideas that we could do, whatever it is, right? It's just nice and simple. And the template fits with anything because you got to write those takeaways based on the articles. And then the magic email. That's the email that I will tell you 23% I get a reply rate on, right? So it's basically telling them that you're not going to talk to them anymore, right? It's basically, you kind of recap the past things, the past resources that you sent to them, right? As you can see, the power of email, which is presumably why you contacted me in the first place, right? You may be feeling overwhelmed. Understand that. I get your feelings. You want to kind of connect with them a little bit more. Remember, they haven't even reached out to you. You just sent them 5 emails over the course of the week and you haven't heard anything yet, right? Maybe there's some questions on the project brief because in and amongst that last email, I basically gave them the project brief, whatever that next step is, right? Remember, this is like, if they're in the Hurryville stage, it's the project brief I want to get them to. If they've already filled out the project brief, well, then it's the proposal building call that I want them to get to, right? Go ahead, fill it out best you can, and then we can take it from there, right? But I don't want to bother you and fill up your inbox. So the time's not right. That's okay. And that magic line there, it's basically putting the onus on them to say, look, if it's not a priority for you, then it's not a priority for me anymore. And I'm not going to bother you with this, right? Like I said, 1 out of every 5 emails that go out, this goes out, I get back saying, oh, no, just things came up. I want to talk still more. And then they'll go fill out the project brief that day. So I just want to recap a little bit about what we're doing, what we talked about, right? We talked about the easiest way to stand out from the crowd is through follow-up because less than 20% of the market is doing it, right? So the easiest, the lowest hanging fruit that you can do is sending an email, right? Because like I said, the education is where you start to position yourself as the expert, and it allows you to lead the lead to the next path. That was difficult, but you want to tell your story. You want to tell the story that leads them to that next step, right? And as you just go about your everyday, right? We're on social, we get links, we read, we're not writing code or designing all day long. Be mindful of the things that you're reading. Can you add this into a library? Can you send this to your next lead? And figure out if it fits within their buyer journey. Now, I really appreciate your time. Like I said, I want you to get tremendous value out of this. So if you have any questions, let's have a chat. And I want to be able to have you walk away with whatever you intended to come away with from this episode. If you'd like to go to res.com/press tribe, there you can opt in. I'll give you my shared spreadsheet for the library, as well as the scripted template from the follow-up sequence and the delays and everything else that put together from both the Hurryville as well as the project brief. So you could kind of rip and run, throw your own links in there, and away you go.
That's just outstanding. Jason, and I feel like I should be maybe calling you Rez, right? That's what you go by, right? Is it Rez?
Yeah, a lot of people call me Rez. Yep, with 3 Z's.
Yeah, with 3 Z's. That's right. Well, gosh, I am so excited that you've been able to share all this with us. And we do have a couple of questions here. I'm going to leave this on the screen just a little bit longer so that everybody can take note of that link. We'll also put it with the video afterwards so that you can get access to that. But if you can, let's go ahead and stop sharing then for a moment. Let's do this.
Sure.
And that'll pull us back on screen together. Let's do gallery view here. Awesome. Awesome. There you are. Okay. So we do have a couple questions in. Steve asked early on in the conversation on the 5 follow-ups that you mentioned that it kind of takes, those touch points that it kind of takes along that journey. Is there a trend and level of info or whatever is actually digested?
I guess, Steve, you're referring to the type of topics that resonate. I mean, if that's the case, I try to do it this way, right? Awareness stage is really, I just send like easy to read, easy to digest type of information. Things like those listicles, those, the 12 best of whatever, and the 7 ways that you could do this, right? Those kind of emails. Then I kind of move up the chain and the complexities and really start to position myself. It's like, if you look at it, it's really a path to lead me to me. And in the consideration and decision stage emails, I actually tell them, look, this is what you do. Like, I give them links, I give them templates, I give them resources so that, look, here's it is. You don't need me, but what you're hiring me for is my experience and expertise in implementing these in the best way for your business.
That's outstanding. All right. He's giving you a bunch of check marks, saying he gets it. That's awesome. And then Claudia had also asked if these slides would be able to be shared. So you already answered that, though. If we go to rezwith3zs.com/press tribe, right? We'll be able to get access to some of this.
I'll throw them in there. Yep.
Yeah. So as others might be asking their questions inside the live chat, I had something that I thought was really intriguing to me. When you listed out that screenshot of all your different resources, I myself have something like that. A lot of the articles that maybe I've written over time. What was intriguing to me, and I love your point on it, is that you brought in a lot of other voices, not necessarily competitors, but really high level. Some of those URLs that you were showing in there are very high level experts in the industry speaking to different touch points. And I find it very intriguing that you're willing to kind of send somebody else in an inbox to a potential client as, hey, this is a resource that I found, I was researching, it resonated with me because of X, Y, or Z. What is your thoughts on it? I think it's interesting because I think they would receive it better in some ways that you're not necessarily selling to them because this is from somebody else. Oh, and he's just highlighting this. That's interesting. So somebody else thinks this way as well. Wow, this guy really must know what he's talking about.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's why I don't sprinkle in my own stuff too early, right? Because I'm out there, they know their business, right? I don't know their business, right? I know what my business is. I know who I can help and how I serve them and stuff. So I'm paying attention to the market and the trends and the tactics and the strategies to help my clients do this, right? So if I bring in folks, let's just case in point the email automation, because that's what I shared, but like people like ConvertKit and Drip and all of these other ESPs out there, but also other marketing experts in that list. I know there's a Neil Patel article, there's an AppSumo article, right? Like a SumoMe article, right?
Yeah.
Social Media Examiner's also in there, right? These are other marketing experts in the game. So I don't want them to hear the things that work from me the first time. I want them to know that, like, okay, if I say it, it's the 3rd or 4th time they've actually heard this. So it does take that, they they tell you that it takes 7 times for somebody to actually receive something. So I want to sprinkle that out. And, if I throw in the Wall Street Journal article, I think that's in there as well, is that, they know what the Wall Street Journal is. Why is he bringing a Wall Street Journal into the tech game, like from my website or marketing platform? Like, how does this work? Well, the Wall Street Journal is now putting an article out there about how important email personalization is. Well, okay, this must be important, right? So it's positioning me as someone who's aware of my surroundings, aware of my market. I do even send links out to people that would be considered competitors of mine. Code Effect, right? In Arizona,
Okay.
right? He produces tons of great WooCommerce articles. I send people there all the time, but I don't look at it as a competition. If somebody's a better fit for him than me, then fine. But if I help them, help them on their way to, basically better their business, then that's what I intended to in the first place. So.
That's huge. I love it. I love it. I don't know too many people who think that way. I'm checking for more questions and any of the live chat right now as well. So let's see if anybody else had any other questions. I don't want y'all to miss out. So, we've got Rez hanging out with us for just a little bit longer. We've got about 10 minutes left to the show. So if you have any questions, please go ahead and throw those inside the live chat. If you hover over our face, there's a little icon at the bottom that says chat, and you can throw them in there. Others do this and moved on and come back. Okay, so builds credibility. So Steve says that what you're saying builds credibility. So talking about highlighting other people in the industry, other people outside the industry speaking to our industry builds credibility. And I think I agree with Steve, kind of builds that rapport with that potential client. He said others also do this, and I've moved on and then come back. So interesting that you see a buyer's journey sometimes circle back to you because they've remembered that, oh, that person was educating me. I know for WebTegrity, most of our clients that come to us that have stayed loyal over the years, one of their first things that they tell me out of the gate is, I have sat with 3 other agencies, or I have spoken to 5 other agencies, and I'm in the interview process, but you are the first one to educate me. Everybody else is selling to me. You're the first one to actually pause for a minute and lift, quote unquote, lift the veil, show who's behind the curtain, and teach us why we need to spend the money, teach us why we need to invest. And that builds that rapport and that trust as well.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I've had people tell me, right? They fill out that project brief. There is nothing about tech in that. It's all about the project, the business. How does this affect your business? How does it affect your customers? All of that stuff. I've had people fill out that project brief and say, I've never been asked these questions before, right? Like, am I talking to a developer? Do you have a huge agency behind you? Like, I'm like, no, it's just me. And this is what is going to define the success of your project. And yes, I'm not the least expensive or cost-effective option a lot of times for some people. But I've had, like you said, people circle back like months later, 6, 10, 12 months later and say, look, now I'm ready for you. Now you asked me these questions. I got what I needed done, but now you made me think. You made me think about where I needed to head with my business. Now I want to have a conversation. And it's all because you stood out in that market, right? I stood out head and shoulders above other developers out there because I was giving them value. I was giving them that education. I was positioning myself as somebody who knows what I'm talking about. I've been doing this for decades, so I've been around the block a few times.
Absolutely. Well, you said you had one of the slides that said you have to give value, right? And I think as a freelancer, I remember, being back there in that time and working from my couch and working from home and meeting at Starbucks with clients. And there's a lot of things that in some ways make you feel like you're less than an agency. But I would really argue to say that one of your amazing values that you can bring to the table as a freelancer is the fact that a lot of times you are a unicorn. And you're not the lead sales guy who knows nothing about development, who knows nothing about the function of a website. You're not the sales guy or gal going out into to meet with that client who literally just knows how to check a box and make a list with the person. You can dream big with them. You can speak immediately to conversion strategy. You can talk about great design. You can talk immediately with them about different type of function or features. And you're not just kind of stuck with this sales guy who's obviously on commission. So that's kind of one of our differentiators, I think, as a freelancer. If you really highlight that in how you're approaching a potential client, it could really be your selling point.
100%. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, when I worked full-time, one of my skills was to be able to, and I was told this from directors above and my managers and things like that. They were like, you're a geek who could speak human. So I worked for a consultant firm that they made a position for me at that time. They didn't have one, but it was a sales engineer, right? I would
Okay.
accompany other sales team members that didn't know tech so that I could help that sales process, kind of grease the wheels a little bit.
Sure.
But when I realized that and I got positive feedback on that, I'm like, I don't know. It's just, it's business. They want to improve. They
Yeah.
want to solve a problem. They want to help. So how can I do that? Right. I need to understand them a little bit more. And I've had, to your point, I've had people that said, well, you're too much on this. Like, I just want somebody that's going to write some code for me to be able to do
Yeah.
this. Like, why do I have to go through all this process? Okay, then we're not a good fit. Right. Like, and that's fine.
Yeah.
There are more cost-effective options for you to do that. Like you could go on a job board or something like that or post it. But if you want to really affect your business, this is what I do, right? Like you don't go to a lawyer to, hang a picture frame, right? Like it just doesn't happen
Sure.
like that. Right. So it definitely, the follow-up sequence nurtures the education. It nurtures your leads so that when your lead is ready to buy and you're in that mode of conversation where you're going to deliver a proposal, that lead is more likely to close because of everything that
Sure.
they went through to even get to that point.
Well, I think in a way you've also kind of solidified in your mind that they are the right fit for you then, right? Because as a freelancer, sometimes we're so darn money hungry that we're just like, this person's a wackadoo, but fine, I'll sign them up. I just need the money and I just need another project in the queue because I got to pay the rent. But thankfully, when you get to the point that you're not in famine and you are now in feast, to make another plug for your show, for your program, but when you're in that feast mode, you have the ability in a lot of ways then to allow your onboarding process or that interview process be reciprocal, where you're weeding out the people who are not the right fit for you, whether they don't have the right budget, they don't understand the right process, they're not actually bringing the right type of project to your table that you feel confident to niche yourself in. I have found that to be very true in our process as we're onboarding a client, where at a certain point, whether there's this alarming email that comes through where they give away the key, they give away I've worked with 12 other web agencies and nobody can get this right. When that email comes through, that is a hot red flag to me saying there's only one common denominator there of the wackadoo. I don't know that you're the right fit. And then we really start to take them down that buyer's journey of a different route to try to understand, is it in fact that they don't truly understand the process? Mm-hmm. Or are they trying to manipulate the situation? What's the disconnect between this person and the 12 other agencies they've gone through? But if you don't have that process, right, to your point, if you don't have that process, you actually have no abilities then to weed out or to filter through potential clients.
Yeah. I look at the sales process twofold. One, it's to put the lead on the path to their success. And two, I want them to not work with me, right? That's the job of my sales process, is to have themselves weed out, right? I found a long time ago that I did not want, we're not in the proposal writing business, right? We don't get to write proposals.
RFPs
right?
are from hell.
Right. So I don't want to spend 3, 4, 5 hours writing a proposal that's going to fall on deaf ears. So if I spend that 3 or 4 hours to write that proposal, best be sure that I'm going to be convinced that they're going to sign, and we're going to be talking next week on our kickoff call. So that process that I put in place is where my profits are, right? Because if your profits go right out the window, that whole feast or famine cycle, that's all based on your profits. And if you can figure out a way to reduce the number of hours that you're actually spending on something, you optimize your process in some sort of way to then go ahead and weed out the folks that you don't want to work with on a consistent basis, then do that. That's where all those tire kickers you're wasting time on. You spend hours. I could go down this rabbit hole. I even track my time to figure out how much time I was wasting on this stuff. because that's important. If you want a sustainable
Did you
business.
lose days? Did you lose days, Rez?
it was too much.
Yeah.
That's what I thought, like, okay, there's something to this. Like, how can I have them weed themselves out?
Exactly. So, as we're talking to a lot of the freelancers out there who might not have 10 leads come through in a month where they feel like they have to filter and create a process, I would just go ahead and suggest to you connecting with Rez, connecting with a freelance coach to help you understand now is the time to set this process in place. You really shouldn't wait for, when your inbox is starting to fill up, because then it's going to be too late to have a process in place. If you get one lead a month, it's time to start figuring out how to weed through that one lead, how to communicate more properly with that lead, how to onboard them correctly. If you're not getting leads, figure out how to get leads, but already have that process in place, right? So that you're not struggling, because I'm telling you right now from absolute experience, just like Rez is saying here, you can't wait. If you don't have an onboarding process, a couple of things are going to happen. You're going to underbid on the project, and you'll end up eating time. Compensatory time to me is a 4-letter word. I don't like doing that. I don't like working for free ever, right? You're also going to really struggle to maintain that sense of connectiveness to that client, because they're going to start to see you struggle when you're having to come back to the table with the old, well, we didn't know it was going to take that long, and it feels like, I'm going to need you to pay for like another 40 hours. You're just really going to start to lose that rapport and that connection with that client. So this onboarding process, I cannot tell you how absolutely important it is to not only land that client with something like this, but then to move them directly into that ongoing process for the full build, for the full delivery of what you just signed them up for.
Yeah. I couldn't have said it better. I mean, I don't get a ton of leads into my business, but because I have this system, by the time these leads actually, I become more aware of them. Like, they've already gone through a bunch of these emails already. They've already built, and you don't have to go crazy. Like I said, just build that library, build yourself a reminder with that first lead to send them those emails, get that practice, be able to understand, get their language, start to see those red flags, and okay, yeah, this is going to be a problem. Like you said, like I've tried this with 12 different people. Okay. Yeah. Well, why? Right. But you want to actually use this follow-up sequence to be able to then shape what it is to work with you, position your expertise, position yourself as somebody who knows how to get the job done, and give examples, right? And
absolutely
share studies and share other things that actually matter to them.
Do you use drip like actual software as somebody comes in and enters on your form on your website? Is that what you do? Then you do have an automated software program that you run?
Yeah, I use ConvertKit, which basically, I mean, on my site, now I have just the project brief. I had a Hurryville form, which I called the Hurryville form. It was just basically emailing a message, but that got too busy, and there was a lot of tire kickers falling into that, and I was just like, okay, this is a waste of time. So I removed that. But people that email me just off the street or find me through Twitter or this and that and the other thing, I say, hey, look, send me your email address. I'll send you the link to the project brief, which will begin the conversation. And so they don't fill out that conversation. They're getting filtered for a week for those 5 emails, and it just kind of goes through. And when they actually reply and fill out that project brief, I pull them out, right?
Okay.
I mean, that's kind of getting into the weeds. And I actually worked with Curtis McHale. We built a course called Stop the Cycle, and that's not a pitch here for this, but we dive deep into that, into the mechanics of all of that, and pressing the time, like putting the time around doing this and all that, and scheduling it in amongst all your client work. But at the basic level, for a long time, all it was me setting a reminder in Google Calendar to send off follow-up number 3, follow-up number 4. And that was just a canned email that I would send back. And that's all it is. It's so simple, and it's so effective.
Well, this has been truly outstanding, you guys. You have like 1 minute if you want to throw anything else in the quick chat and ask your questions with Jason, Rez. But Rez, really, this has been such an honor to have you on the show and to be a part and to have your voice speak into the community. I'm excited also just as much to share with the community your resources. So I'm not plugging you. I'm literally saying to the whole audience here, you guys need to go check out his website. There's resources to be had in all ranges. There's free resources. Listen to his podcast. Go over and click through all of the different resources on his website. Get in his pipeline to be a part of his Feast program. Be a part of that community and really, really glean from him his experience and understand that as a freelancer, you should be making 6 figures. You should be doing that. If that's your goal, right? If that's your financial goal, you should be able to do that. And whatever goal you have, whether it's, hey, I just need to supplement some income and I just want to do a side gig, because I'm really a full-time parent, or whether it's, listen, I really need to step up and I want this to be my full-time real gig and I want to be valued. I think there's opportunity here, but you really do have to have a process in place. And I'm gonna challenge you to not go it alone. That's the whole concept of Press Tribe, is that there are others who have gone before you, like Rez, like me, and many, many, many others out there who've gone before you that say, hey, I'll hold the door open for you. Let me show you some ideas, because if somebody had done this for me, I can only imagine where I would have been. Right, Rez?
100%. And thank you for your time and allowing me to share this, because, like you said, if I wish I had somebody to follow when I started this. I mean, I started my freelance journey as a side hustle back in the late 90s, right? So
wow.
I mean, there was nobody talking about any of this stuff. It was more like, I'm covering up my paper and I'm going to keep my answers to myself at that point. But
that's awesome.
It is. Learn from Kori. I mean, you do a fabulous job on YouTube with all of your resources. The community in and of itself, Press Tribe. I mean, I love popping in there on a daily basis and just kind of seeing people.
Thank you.
That's going on in there. I love that. And I truly appreciate you allowing me some time today to share in the space.
Heck yeah. Well, we'll definitely be putting this out on YouTube so that it will have a lifetime access totally for free. Again, I just want everybody to get in here, learn that there's opportunity, learn that there's others who have gone before you, and we're willing to be a voice to help you and to be your business coach, be your freelance coach, just like Rez does. So thank you so much for joining me, Rez. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, you guys. We'll see you next time.
Just incredible. Isn't that, you guys? Oh my goodness. What an amazing 1-hour session to learn from Jason Resnick. All of these incredible resources are going to be available to you in a link below. And I hope you tweet to him, reach out to him, let him know how much you enjoyed this and how you found this so valuable. He has a lot more resources. Be sure to subscribe to his podcast as well. If you like stuff like this and you are an entrepreneur inside the world of WordPress, be sure to subscribe to Press Tribe. I'll put the link to that below in the description box as well, because that's an online community of folks just like you and me. Entrepreneurs, freelancers, agencies, all inside the world of WordPress. We get together at least once a week when we have a live chat and we're talking about resources and opportunities and how to network with each other. All right, I hope you're having a great one. I'll see y'all next time. Bye, everyone.